One of the things that we find really extraordinary about our Pastors for Peace caravans is that they're not only people from the U.S., the great majority are people from the U.S., but we are also joined in solidarity by people from many other countries, and their international representation is really important to our work. We have people this time from Canada, from Mexico, and from a number of different countries in Europe, and I'm not going to try to name them all because I'll miss some. But representing our international contingent today, we'll have a word from Nita Palmer from Vancouver.
We're here as a group of people from Canada, people from countries around the world today in solidarity with all of our brothers and sisters who are on the caravan with us here in the United States, because we feel that this U.S. policy towards Cuba, the U.S. blockade of Cuba, is a policy which is unjust, which is immoral, and which must be ended. We are here to participate and to support the Pastors for Peace project in demanding an end to the U.S. blockade on Cuba, and also in support of our brothers and sisters in the U.S. who are demanding their simple right to freely travel to Cuba, to visit their brothers and sisters in Cuba. A right which we, as people from Canada, as people from other countries around the world, have had and have the ability to travel freely to Cuba to visit our brothers and sisters. We would like to see that extended for people all around the world, for our brothers and sisters everywhere to be able to share our solidarity, exchange our ideas, and benefit from each other's love and support and everything that we can do for each other.
Every time we travel to Cuba, we have with us experienced caravanistas who've made the trip many times before, but we also have many folk who are traveling for the first time. This year we're blessed with a contingent with many young people and many who are visiting Cuba for the very first time. And one of them is going to speak to you now. Her name is Madeline Grayson, and she comes from Syracuse, New York.
Good afternoon. I'm a first-time caravanista, and I'm speaking here on behalf of Pastors for Peace as a pre-med student as well as a social justice organizer in my community. And the reason I'm coming to Cuba with the caravan is I am applying to the Latin American School of Medicine this coming year. And one reason why this is very important to me is that Cuba has organized, the Cuban government has a subsidized education program where students are able to attend school from primary school onto their PhD. And the medical school is very interesting in that it is providing access to people who normally wouldn't have access to a medical education to come and study for free. And I am going to see the healthcare system, how things are done differently. I believe that every American in this country deserves healthcare, and I'm looking to Cuba to provide insight on what social justice looks like when made manifest. And it's a free education, as I said before, and you know, it's part of the solidarity movement to encourage physicians to serve underserved communities when they return upon completion of graduation. And I'm very fortunate to be part of this caravan and to come home with some greater insight on how to change our social justice. Thank you.
And our last official speaker in the program, after that we'll take questions, is someone who is an experienced caravanista, been with us before, from the Brown Berets in Watsonville, California, Sandino Gomez.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm here representing the Brown Berets along with 3 other members of my organization, and we're in total solidarity with Pastors for Peace because we believe in the project, we believe what they're doing, and we believe we have to resist our government when it commits injustices against other people. In particular, we are in complete solidarity with the campaign to free the Cuban Five. The Cuban Five. The Cuban Five are 5 Cuban nationals who came here to prevent terrorism from being inflicted against innocent Cubans by right-wing terrorist former Cubans who are now perpetuating these horrendous acts against not only Cubans but internationals as well. These 5 heroes, for their attempt to prevent terrorism, were convicted of conspiracy to commit espionage Many were given life sentences. One was given a double life sentence. And at the same time, admitted, convicted terrorists like Luis Posadas Carillas and like Orlando Bosch walk around free in Miami today. This is a hypocritical stance by our government, and we condemn it. We do not think that terrorism against one people is okay and terrorism against other people is okay. All terrorism is wrong, and we condemn it. Thank you.
Woo, woo. Let's take questions in English, and then we can move into a different formation for interviews in Spanish. What questions do y'all have?
Yeah, could you just give us an idea of the type of supplies you're taking, the amount, what it's going to be used for in the end?
Who wants to take the question? We're expecting that we have close to 100 tons of aid here. The vehicles themselves, most of them will be donated. The buses will be donated to churches and community projects and hospitals. The aid that they're carrying, as Reverend Walker said, much of the aid is humanitarian supplies, construction supplies that people will use to repair their houses after the brutal hurricanes of last summer that damaged 500,000 houses in Cuba. So we have tools and we have construction equipment and PVC pipes and plumbing supplies and those kinds of things. We have medical and educational aid. The recreational vehicle, the little white RV that you see, will be donated to serve as a mobile hearing lab. They'll use that to test the hearing of young infants around the country, which is a technology the Cubans have developed, because if you can detect the hearing loss at an early enough age, you can prevent a lot of cognitive difficulties as the kids grow. So this will be helping with a medical program.
How do you get the buses there?
We leave tomorrow. We drive to, we cross the borders. Then we drive to Tampico, and the aid and the buses will be loaded aboard a ship in Tampico, which will carry them to Cuba. We then will, as Caravanistas, fly to Cuba, and we'll be there to receive the aid and to visit with our Cuban friends.
Other questions? Yes.
What has the Cuban government's response been to the caravan?
The Cuban government's response has been totally the opposite of the U.S. government's response. Our government does everything possible to stop us from going or to discourage us from going, including arrests, including the seizure of some of the aid. Cuba fully welcomes the caravans, gives its support and its encouragement for the kind of solidarity that we represent, and would like to see our spirit and our methods of solidarity expanded to the highest level in the U.S., including the government itself. That's why we talk about ourselves as a people-to-people foreign policy, demonstrating to Cuba that not all U.S. citizens support our government's policy, and that at the same time we're demonstrating to the U.S. that what we do is an example of what our government ought to be doing.